In today's video, we will be taking a look at some of the most shocking secrets Roman bedrooms exposed. The rooms where ancient Romans slept are something that has fascinated historians for decades now, as they would decorate their bedrooms with certain types of art, symbols, and other kinds of objects to convey messages about themselves. Some of these signs had to do with them wanting to have children, while others had to do with them being in love or desiring something else. This practice was so common in those days that it almost became like a secret code where people could find out all kinds of things about a person just by looking around their bedroom. So if you're curious about what kind of secrets your bedroom walls could be hiding, keep watching. You are not going to want to miss this one. The symbol of Venus. Venus was one of the most important goddesses in Roman mythology. She was the goddess of beauty and love, and her symbol was often used as a way to express these concepts. In fact, she was even known as the patron deity of prostitutes, because of her association with love and sex. So if someone had a statue of Venus in their bedroom, it was pretty clear that they were either looking for love or maybe already had it. Another interesting fact about Venus is that she was also associated with fertility. So if a woman wanted to get pregnant, she might have put up a statue of Venus in her bedroom as a way of asking for the goddess's help. Of course, there were many other ways that Romans expressed their desire for children, but having a statue of Venus was definitely one of them. The Romans believed that the goddess was able to help women conceive, and she was often invoked in prayers and rituals related to fertility. In fact, there was even a festival dedicated to Venus that took place every April, and it was during this celebration that women would go to the temple of Venus and pray for her assistance in getting pregnant. So if you were a Roman woman who wanted to have a baby, you might have done anything you could to get Venus's attention, including putting up a statue of her in your bedroom. Images of Eros. Eros was the Roman god of love and desire, and he was often depicted as a winged boy holding a bow and arrow. It was believed that Eros could make people fall in love with just a flick of his wrist, and he was often called upon to help those who were having trouble finding a partner. In fact, there were even temples dedicated to Eros where people could go to pray for his assistance. So if you were a Roman man who was looking for love, you might have put up an image of Eros in your bedroom as a way of asking for his help. You may have also done this if you wanted to strengthen the love between yourself and your partner. After all, what better way to show your affection for someone than by invoking the god of love himself? Interestingly, the Romans didn't just put up images of Eros in their bedrooms. They also built altars and made offerings to him in hopes of winning over their desired partner. Some of the things they offered included flowers, incense, and wine, and it was believed that if Eros was pleased with the offering, he would intervene and help them find love. Offerings to Eros were not only made by those who were single and looking for a partner, but also by those who were in relationships and wanted to keep the love alive. In fact, it was common for couples to make offerings to Eros on their wedding day as a way of ensuring that their love would last forever. Of course, there's no guarantee that these offerings would have been successful, but it was certainly worth a try. The snakes have long been associated with sex, and this is likely because they were seen as phallic symbols. In fact, snakes were so closely associated with sex that they were sometimes banned from public baths and other places where people gathered together. This was because it was believed that their presence could arouse the libido. But despite their controversial status, snakes were still popular symbols in Roman bedrooms. People would often keep pet snakes, and they would even make jewelry and other objects in the shape of snakes. So if you were a Roman man who wanted to make his bedroom more inviting, you might have wanted to include some snake imagery. Of course, this could be a bit risky, as you never knew when one of your snakes might decide to bite you. But the risk was likely worth it for many Romans, as they believed that snakes could bring good luck in love and sex. Interesting enough, the snake symbol wasn't only popular in ancient Rome, but also in ancient Greece. In Greek mythology, the god Pan was often depicted with a snake, and he was associated with fertility and masculinity. This is likely why the Greeks and Romans both adopted the snake as a symbol of sex and desire. It's important to note that the snake was the only animal that was associated with sex in ancient Rome. Other animals, such as pigs and donkeys, were also popular symbols. However, the snake was by far the most popular, and it's likely that this is because it was seen as a more exotic and mysterious creature. After all, snakes were not native to Italy, and this made them more intriguing to the Romans. The goddess Diana. Diana was the Roman goddess of the moon and the hunt, and she was also associated with fertility and childbirth. As such, it was common for women who were pregnant or who had recently given birth to invoke her in their prayers. It was believed that Diana could help ensure a safe delivery and protect both the mother and the child. In fact, there was even a festival dedicated to Diana that took place every May, and it was during this celebration that women would make offerings to her in hopes of receiving her assistance. But Diana wasn't only invoked by women who were pregnant or had recently given birth. She was also called upon by those who were experiencing problems in their love life. If a woman was having trouble getting pregnant, she might have turned to Diana in hopes that the goddess could help her conceive. It was believed that Diana was particularly helpful to those who were struggling to have children, and she was often invoked in prayers and rituals related to fertility. So if you were a Roman woman who was having trouble getting pregnant, You might have put up an image of Diana in your bedroom as a way of asking for her help. Interestingly, Diana was not the only goddess that Romans turned to in their time of need. Other goddesses, such as Venus and Juno, were also popular choices. However, Diana was seen as a more approachable and helpful deity, and this is likely why she was so often invoked in prayers related to fertility and childbirth. Overall, the Romans believed that Diana was a kind and compassionate goddess who was willing to help those who were in need, and this is why she remained one of the most popular deities in Roman religion. Those who desired power, if you wanted to show everyone that you were somebody important, you needed to make sure that your bedroom was decorated in a way that showed off your power. One way to do this was to make sure that you had a bed made out of ivory. Ivory was a very expensive material to work with, and it was often imported from Africa and Asia. This meant that only the wealthy elite could afford ivory beds, and it was a great way to show off your wealth. Of course, you also wanted to make sure that your bedroom was decorated with paintings and sculptures that showed off your power. This is why many wealthy Romans decorated their bedrooms with images of themselves, as well as images of their ancestors. By displaying images of yourself and your ancestors, you were showing everyone that you were part of a powerful family with a lot of money. And if you were a man, you might have also wanted to display images of your military victories. This was a great way to show off your courage and strength, and it was also a way to intimidate your enemies. Overall, the goal when decorating your bedroom if you were a wealthy Roman was to make it clear that you were somebody important. You wanted to show off your wealth, your power, and your prestige, and you did this by decorating your bedroom with expensive materials and artwork. What do you think about these secrets? Were you shocked to learn how Romans decorated their bedrooms? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. See you next time.